happens inside of Frozone right here. Really, really cool, strong stuff. I mean, this guy, almost every pose this guy had in this movie was just, it was grooving. And that's kind of the character he was. You know, he was a very groovy kind of guy. But you take a look at the hand, runs right up through there. I mean, everything's going right to the head, right where it ought to go. But it's also got a dynamic energy to it. He's ready to do something. But he's also a little bit back. You know, he's not got the upper hand here. And if you take a look at it with Bob, Bob's got similar kind of flow that go to the face, but they're in character. Bob's more of a I'll take you on kind of guy. So Frozone's kind of leaning back. He's kind of quick and nimble. He'll evade. Whereas Bob, as a character, is more likely to take something on and punch it in the head. And you see that here in how this stuff works and it flows. And you see it all works up to his head just the same. Now here's the other quick, real neat bonus covering multiple points. Just check out this one single line that flows right through Bob's fist, up through his arm, past his face, down his shoulder, takes a pickup on Frozone's hand and runs through him, and very quickly, when, like I said, this thing was on screen, what, 2 seconds, maybe 3? You can get a quick read, bam, bam, what's going on, who the characters are, what the story is at this moment, all because the really, really great use of flow between the two characters. This is beyond line of action. This stuff is using things in the entire scene in concert to give you what you want. Here's another neat little trick for your poses. Tilt the head. It's a great, great, great little trick for adding some life and some weight, and it accentuates the line of action. Take a look at a couple of pictures of a bunch of different people. Notice how they just don't hold their head straight up and down. It just, you know, we just don't do it. Our heads are always leaned to one side or the other. And this adds personality. It adds character. It shows weight. It's very difficult to hold your head straight up and down. It requires a lot of effort in your neck. Again, going back to the Buckingham Palace Guard thing, those guys hold themselves straight up and down, and it requires great discipline. We're not that disciplined in real life. We just kind of slouch in there ourselves. And so tilt your heads when you're posing a character to accentuate the line of action. Sometimes maybe tail it off into an S-curve in a different direction, but it adds a bit of life, and it makes your poses appealing, and it makes your characters accessible. And people are like, oh, I can relate, because I don't hold my head up either. Now here is your typical welcome to CG pose, and it's pretty dull. One of the reasons why it's dull, even though the character has a lot of things going on for him, is because what we have is we have the hips right underneath the shoulders, right underneath the head, and the arms are straight out. It is about as dull as dry toast. And one of the problems is we let this define too much of what we're trying to do. One of the things that you can quickly do to add some life to this is to add torque. Torque is some change or twist. You use twist to denote energy. We measure engine power sometimes and how much torque it has. Basically, how much ability does it have to add energy to the application of changing things. So one of the first things you can do is get rid of this relationship where if we take a look at the x-axis of the hips and the x-axis of the shoulders, they're both face forward. And even if we go ahead and pose our character around in a fun sort of way, and we kind of get some, we get a line of action inside of it, and we start playing around with it some. And even, there we go, like so. And even if we get the head working on it, okay, so there's some funky things in the rig there. And we get, okay, so, that's actually not a bad line of action if you take a look at it. We can actually make it stronger by taking this guy right here and pulling him off to the side. And maybe pull his knee in a little bit. So we do have a line of action running through him, but it still kind of lacks a certain level of oomph. And that's because, again, our hips are still basically facing the same direction as our shoulders. If you want to add some energy to this, let's go ahead and take the whole guy right here and turn him, and then take this and then turn it back. Now there's a certain, it requires energy to twist like that, and we can play off this some. And we may be pushing it a bit far here, but for the point of emphasis, let me get this independent hip here, things sort of working. But this right here now, there's something going on that's a little bit more energetic than just having him with the straight up line of action before. And we want to make sure that we play around with these poses enough so that if we take a look again at the axis now, the X is straight forward on us, and then here this is pointing to the side. Again, this is a bit of a quick and extreme example, but it shows you that there's some extra energy inside of this pose which accentuates the line of action. So now we have this even stronger line from the backside, and we're adding some twist inside of this part of his body, which is causing him to loosen up. Big problem with CG puppets is they're very stiff inside the torso. This whole region right in through here, from the shoulders down to the hips, is often a dead zone. And that's just because we're letting the default basis of the rig define too much of what we're doing. Let's take a look at another problem that is pretty common, and that is an even weight distribution. Let's say we want to have, again, let's put a little bit of nice line of action in this guy. Get something going here where it works pretty well. Just quickly throw something in there. Doesn't have to be special. Okay, so this is a good default kind of, hey, he's just standing around looking at things sort of thing. But you'll notice that it still feels a little less than dynamic. It's better than straight up and down, and we're playing with the head here, and everything's kind of flowing up into the face, and the lines are sort of working. But the weight distribution on the feet is too even, and that just denotes that. Oop, look, his thumb's poking in. Hey, I didn't know I could do that. So we've got a bit of a problem. We need to punch this up a little bit. A lot of times you'll have a supervisor come by and say, okay, push that pose. And you're like, how do I push a pose? What do we mean push a pose? One of the first things you can do to push a pose is you can change and shift the weight off of both feet and distribute it a little more unevenly. So let's go ahead and move him over this way. Down a smidge. Get the weight on that, his right foot, sorry. I was going to say left, but it's screen left. So now we've got this weight distributed a little bit on over this foot. And now, so we've added a little bit more to it. Again, this is a very, very quick example. One thing you can do is, you don't necessarily have to flow the line completely right around and concave. You can do a little S-curve at the top. Either one's interesting. But we've got now the weight is off of that one foot, onto that one foot, and you notice as I play around with the rig here that there's any number of ways to do this and still have it look fairly decent. I'm starting to break it pretty bad now, but again, just trying to find ways to get these things broken up from being absolutely imperfectly even. And now if you add some weight shift along with some torque, and we start to see that stuff starts coming together pretty nicely. Take this hand and fix the way the lines are flowing up inside of the face. Alright, that's going to do it for this little session right here. I hope this one has been as beneficial to you as the last one, or even more. And I thank you very much for playing along. Feel free to email me with any questions if you've got them. Also, any suggestions, feedback's always welcome. I always want to make this better for you, the subscriber. Like I said, thanks, and God bless.